Welcome back, my fellow duplicants, to Satisfactory here, and today I'm going to be going over my Stator manufacturing facility and how that's going to connect together with the rotor manufacturing facility to make motors. So this is actually the next evolution, the next revision of the same sort of vertical manufacturing setup thing that I've been working on here. So before we go and look at that project, let's go ahead and just recap where I'm at here, because I've done 3 videos in the past. I did this one down here, then I did version 2 over here, which was quite a bit better, version 3 where I think I really started to feel the rhythm, and version 4 here where you're going to definitely see how this pattern's actually really starting to pay out. So the idea behind this is that there's different ores around the map, right? Limestone, coal, copper, whatever, and you can go over to those locations, and I want to be able to build certain products at that location within a single tower, and then ship that to kind of my main area here via a tractor, a truck, a train, whatever, and then maybe add that to kind of a traditional sort of main bus line and build up more factories as need be. So part of what I'm trying to do here is not just make all one product within one single tower, although that would be really nice to expand and whatnot. To me, that's a bit too much like how I'd play Factoria. I wanted to challenge myself and just explore the creative side of trying to make these things like they're factories in the real world. So you build them to the best of your ability with the technology you have, and you solve that problem, and then you leave it alone until it becomes so outdated that you have to go back and rebuild it. Or maybe you can upgrade it. I don't know. There's a thing that's in process as far as vertical conveyors. We might be able to get that, and that'll make this hopefully a whole lot easier, because while this isn't too bad, it is still a bit of a hassle. We started off with a spiral setup like this, so you can kind of go around, and then at the top here it actually outputs several different products. So this actually has a lot of the main ideas, even though it wasn't laid out all that great, or the application of it didn't really work that great. It definitely has the theme of what I want, and you're going to see that in the rotor, in the stator factory over here. So this machine puts out plates, it puts out extra screws, and it also puts out the reinforced iron plates over here, which was the main goal of this factory. So what this is doing is it's trying to make use of all the different equipment that's inside of it, and then everything that isn't used to make the main target product is then exported for use somewhere else. So you see we have byproducts of screws and plates. Sorry, I got like a hair on my nose. It's driving me nuts. So that was this setup right here. And one of the restrictions on this setup was that I only had a Mark II belt. So I had to kind of merge belts together and split them off in kind of interesting ways in order to make that work. At this point, this thing is so redundant, I really don't even need it. So I might end up tearing this thing down, but I think it's kind of cool just to keep around as a reference to see where I've came from to where I go. And that's kind of how I like to play the game. I'm not just trying to have only the equipment I need to get to the end of the tower or whatever. I like playing sandbox mode, right? Build this thing, see how it works. It's fun. It's fun. So this was version 2, but this changed everything up in that I tried to reduce the amount of things I was doing within this tower, but try to come up with a more modular setup. So in this arrangement, stuff goes up and down on both ends, which I eventually got rid of down here. So everything went up on that side and down on that side. But both of these facilities had the same sort of idea that only the finished product comes down. So you build up all this equipment as need be, but you're only really getting one thing out of it. So in this case, I have reinforced iron plate. That's the only thing that comes down from this factory. Now, if this was built to the tune of, let's say, an even dividing number, so something like 45 reinforced iron plates, then everything that would flow up, that would be the only thing you get out of it, because everything, works out as need be. Otherwise, you have to underclock and overclock things in order to make things work. So we definitely reworked the arrangement on this next facility here, and this one's for the modular frames. So all of these are running the top assembler at its maximum efficiency, I should say, or its maximum quantity, and then everything else down here works to serve that. But the layout here that I found was really valuable is echoed all the way throughout this entire facility, in that all the product that is flowing up on one side, and all the product that's flowing down is flowing down over here. This one also explored the idea of making it a little bit longer, And with that, you can make 4 constructors down here, and that actually seems to work out. Things seem to really like to need right around 4 constructors or 8 constructors for whatever reason. So with all of that in mind, here's what I got going on here as far as today's plan. So the idea is that I'm going to be making stators and then eventually rotors, and that will then combine into motors at the top. Now, unlike what I've done in this last facility here, where I'm bringing in the ore, right? I'm using ore. I'm actually going to be bringing in the ingots. At some point, whenever you go to really set up all of this stuff, or some point when I go to do that, is I have to choose at what tier am I really going to bring stuff into a tower. So the ingot seems to be a pretty good number. At least that's what I'm trying right now. So pretty much everything down here is done at the node spot. And the goal of what I've done with the stators down here is that I'm maximizing the node. So this, I currently have a Mark II digger running at its normal speed right here, so it's not overclocked or anything. So I get 120 copper ore out of that. Let's just head on over there to see it. All right, so here's kind of the miner and smelting operation, and you can see this is happening all at the node. So I've got the copper ore, it's running at 120 per minute, just at 100% speed. And then you can see I have 4 smelters over here, and these are all running at 30 per minute right there. So everything just comes in, splits, and then heads on up towards the factory area over there. The other ingredient that is flowing in is actually being delivered by a truck that's way off in the distance. So that is just running on a big ugly conveyor all the way up from down here. I will work on a shipping station, shipping and receiving, at some point. That'll probably happen right in this area or someplace that I have a lot of floor space. Might even multi-tier that thing up. I got some interesting ideas for sort of a main bus and shipping and receiving. I kind of want to explore. So if you follow this up, we then actually get into the production facility over here. So this thing has a total of 5 different stories, and it starts down low and making wire. All right, so here's where things go back to kind of the original idea, in that I'm trying to maximize the amount of resources I have coming out of the ground. So what I have is 8 different constructors that are making wire to the tune of 360 per minute. Now, I don't need 360 per minute. You can see right down here, I only need 120 in order to make the stators. So what I'm doing is overproducing the amount of wire so that I can use that wire and essentially use the cables as well for, you know, making things that I'll need to handcraft, but also using them in other facilities as well when I go to make higher tier products later on. So that's this here will join kind of my main bus idea that I'll build up eventually sometime later. The other product that's going to be shipping in here is obviously the steel ingots. You saw those, and I'm going to overproduce the steel pipes just by a little bit right there. So essentially 36 of those are going to be consumed by the assemblers here, which is going to be making a maximum of 12 per minute, which is, again, more than I need. I'm going to get 2 extra per minute. That'll then kind of either go into a storage unit for handcrafting or into the main bus line, which honestly will just be 2 in the same thing. So the one weird thing that I'm doing here is I'm really working a couple splitters and emergers in order to make sure that this equipment has priority over the steel pipes versus, you know, a lot of the material just flowing out. Because if this was running off to another facility, right, and that facility can consume a lot of steel pipes, then this one would actually be underproduced, and I'd never be able to get the maximum amount over here. So what I'm doing with this arrangement right here is I'm running 2 splitters to a merger, in that this is 50-50, and then I'm taking 1/3 of 50 over there to get 16%, a little bit over 16% out of this line. Now the thing is, it doesn't take that much. This is actually going to, when you do the math, more would end up on this line right here, but it ends up backed up, and then the rest of the material flows out down here. All right, so how this arrangement here works in game is a bit like this. So you can see we have a storage container here, and I'm going to go ahead and throw 100 of this product in there. And you'll see that it gets divided 3 ways right here. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm taking half of that third to go out this way. So this will either have 16 or 17 products in there, and then that one will have 80s as well. So it'll either be 83 or 84 over there. And that's the percentage difference. Now the thing is, this one over here in actual use, I believe, only takes 80%. So this would actually back up, and then the priority would end up flowing out this way. So if we look inside of here, we have 17. So we should have 83 over here. Boom, just like that. So that's how that arrangement works, and you'll see that at the very top of this facility. All right, so let's take a factory tour here. So on the first level, obviously you can see that I have 4 different constructors, and all of these are making wire. And the other thing you want to notice here is that the rhythm and arrangement here seems to work out well if you bring in the product at the same spot on every single level. So that seems to be this back corner right here. So obviously we have a spaghetti box over here, and eventually we're probably going to get some vertical conveyors, but I feel like, you know, keeping this spot in mind will definitely help you out if you're ever get inspired and want to build something like this yourself. I do get a few messages of people saying that they've built one of these things, which is cool. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. The idea though is that everything that down here is just making wire, and that heads out over here. So this is now becoming a Mark IV belt, because the total flow by the time this is done is going to be 360. So to show you how the copper ingots are flowing in, you can see they're obviously flowing in over here. This gets split, and then I use this piece right here in order to click that and then go up one. That way the product that's flowing out is underneath the product that's flowing up, so you can stack everything. Again, once we get vertical conveyors, that might all just be way less less difficult. And then when you get to the next layer, that's just going to end up there. So let's move on up to the second story. I like to use jump pads, they're interesting. So we go ahead and jump up here. And now that I have the blade runners, I don't take any damage from that. So thanks for that recommendation. And you can see that the rest of the copper ingots are flowing in right here. And then that ends up in the constructors, and that gets made into wires. Just like so. 4 of these per level. So at this point right here, I merged the lines back together, so you can see that, you know, one is flowing from over here, so it actually flows up and then comes up into, again, this sort of wall hanger conveyor thing. And then I put the merger right here in order to connect all this together, and this is where things are flowing at 360. So this is really where you need the Mark IV belt right here, but I kind of like to keep everything the same belt, just because it helps my brain a little bit, and I think it looks better. So now I'm on the third level here, and this is where I'm going to be making the wire, but I've got a problem, and that problem is that I need to split, but I only need a certain amount of material to run up past this point. So this is where I'm using belts to govern the speed over here on this chart, so that I end up with what is more or less, it's actually 240 that's running past this, and then 120 runs past that in order to make the wire. So instead of this actually being this way, this is going to be 240, 60, 120 that gets reduced down into 60, and then 120 of the wire ends up flowing out. Here's what it looks like in the game. You can see I run a splitter right here, and then I'm running a Mark II belt in order to reduce that flow down. Otherwise this would be 50-50, and we wouldn't get enough into this area. So by doing this, 120 gets brought into these constructors right here. You can see I'm making all that cable. And then the rest of that wire keeps flowing past all of this, and then it starts to flow down and away from everything on the path out over here. So you can see all the wire that's flowing down. And that also matches up with the cable that's being produced right here, which then just runs down at the level below it. And then at some point, this will actually connect to a main bus line, kind of like what I have the starts of right there, which then may be consumed somewhere else. So that covers wire. At this point, all I have is wire flowing up, and then I have some steel ingots. Now those steel ingots are going to find their way in over here. Now the one thing I do here is when I have a product that's going to be flowing up from one level to the next, then I just keep it on the nearest side wall. If I have stuff that just needs to be in waiting, I end up putting it on the far wall over there so that it's just in waiting. So you can see steel ingots over here were in waiting, and now wires in waiting, and then I just bring that from one side to the near side in order to consume it. So if we look on the outside over here, if I go ahead and put down a floor like this, you can see what I'm doing here. It actually flows out this spot, comes in over here, and this is where I bring it in to the constructors in order to do what I need to do here. So this will be making 45 steel pipes per minute. Now I need to consume steel pipes in the assembler up above, so let's move on up to the top level here. So this is level 5. Things are absolutely crazy up here. There's a lot of things going on. We got all of the wire that's flowing in, and then you can see I've got another one of these arrangements here that we just saw down below, and how that works. And you can see how the steel pipe is backed up right here. So what ends up happening is this is no longer being split 3 ways, because you can't go out here and you can't go out there, so you have to go over here, and then it divides correctly in so that we always have enough to run these assemblers, and then the extra flows out, and that's how we end up with the 36 and 9. So if we take a look at these assemblers right here, you can see that they're making the stators, and as it finishes one stator, it should rotate right back over, and we're pretty much maintaining the same amount of wire inside of here. So it's running about as close to 100% efficient as I can get it. And you can see that the steel pipes, they have the full inventory so that they're always pushing the extra pipes out of this arrangement. So there's the wire, got a few extra. Yeah, there it is, 12 right there. So you can see the stators are now going to be flowing out here at the rate of 12 per minute. Now, once I build the second half of this flow chart, which is going to be the rotors, what I should end up with is, this will be, if I bring everything in as an ingot, this would be 1 level, this would be 2 levels, this would be the 3rd, bringing the 4th one up to here. Or if I do the smelting on the 1st level, then I'd actually end up on level 5. So the motors will actually be constructed on pretty close to the same level right here. I don't know, we'll have to see. Or maybe I put motors somewhere else so that these two can stay this could be stators, this could be rotors, and maybe motors is over here somewhere else. I don't know, maybe I throw that on the end of a main bus. I don't know. I see, this is the thing I like about Satisfactory, in that there's a lot of different ways to do the same sort of thing. Obviously there's kind of traditional ways of doing things, and then I think there's just kind of crazy ideas, and that's what I really like about this game, is the fact that you can be creative. You can move things, use trucks to like drive between places and whatnot. I think it's really cool. And you know what else is cool? I like experimenting, and like this was a total experiment. I didn't know this was going to work before I built it up here, but as it turns out, it does, and it's really cool. So if you got different ideas as far as how to actually split so that we get certain percentages between spots, if you have a resource for that, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section below, because I think that would be a really good resource for me. One of the more recent resources that you guys actually linked to me was this Satisfactory calculator. So you can see this right here. And this is what I used in order to make my flowchart over here. Again, a link to this is in the description below. I'll try to clean it up and make it as accurate to the video as I can, but I still would like it to be a helpful document if people want to build it. But this calculator right here is definitely better than what I had with my Google Doc. So I knew it was a matter of time before somebody built something like this, and this thing is pretty awesome. And this is what I was using here to figure out, okay, how much wire can I make? And you can see a Mark II normal right there is 120, so that's perfect. Rotors, you can figure rotors out. Motors, encased industrial beam, I'm going to have to start making that, especially now that I have the Mark IV belts and whatnot. I love it. So a link to all of that stuff is going to be in the description below. Also, if you have some crazy ideas, as far as how to set up facilities or set up different things, feel free to mention them below. So one fun idea that came up during the live stream that I do several times a week on Twitch was that I can only ever have one jelly for all of my vertical production lines. And I can't touch the floor in order to get to that. So I have to use nothing but jump pads in order to figure out how I'm going to get back over there. So I'm going to cut to that at the end of this video. But if you guys have other ideas for me as far as, you know, different ways to do things, go ahead and leave them down there in the description below. At any rate, that's all I got time for today. Hopefully you guys found this video somewhat informative or just plain enjoyable. And if this looks like the channel for you, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button. Again, if you got ideas, leave them down there in the description below. And hopefully I'll see you again next time. Stay awesome, guys. Peace. Brothgar out. An arbitrary rule. All of your base is built vertical. There's only one jelly no matter what. You have to get back to that jelly. This just became a challenge map. Alright. Where is it? Oh, okay, yeah, that's nice and big. Oh, that definitely needs to be tilted. That was weak. Weak. I need to make forward progress here. Let's see here. Where's this going to take me anyhow? Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. It would work. It could work. But it needs to be a little bit more forward. Jumps should be under logistics for Brothgar. You know, it'd be kind of cool if he could drop stuff onto jump pads and just like launch it. Have a packing and unpacking station. I doubt that would ever become a feature, but all right, I'm feeling it. I feel like this is the one. Here we go. Yes! Yes. Perfect.